I couldn't have asked for a better panel to discuss on, focus on Middle India. Enough has been said about Middle India, for a lot of startups and investors, that's where the opportunity lies. Building for Bharat. We've heard these themes again and again. Today, we're going to try and break it down, with our stellar panelists, investors, founder, and advisor. We couldn't have asked for a better panel. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much. First up, by now it has been already established that there's a huge market to be served in the Middle India, right? What many call the Bharat. The 500 million digital users sitting outside of the metros of India. What are the pockets of opportunity that you see today? So if Nruthya, first up, if you can take that and talk about the kind of opportunities you see in the Middle India, that would be great.
Oh, fantastic. Just to quickly introduce myself, so I'm a partner at 314 Capital, and this has been a fund purpose-built to invest in India and to spot all of these opportunities a little bit early. That's the job that we do in the early stage. So several years ago, what we call Middle India, unfortunately, a lot of the phrasing about this still needs to be adjusted. So calling it Bharat, calling it Middle India, calling it the vernacular is all very dismissive of truly.
We're calling it many Indias.
Right, exactly.
Many Indias
so
is nice.
I mean, she has this incredible report she'll speak about, of course, but I think it's really underselling the massive potential that's been. So for the past decade or so, or maybe not the past decade, but so 10 years ago, everyone was thinking about India in the form of just urban elite consumption. But that, obviously, of course, on the backs of just rapid internet penetration and beyond, and several different moves, online transactions being made available, etc. Have you seen a real and purposeful shift, besides, of course, incomes rising, towards broader India, right? Like the actual India. So I feel like what we've been serving up until now has been snapshots that look like the UK or the US, and it's been models like that. And what we're really, really excited about, and we spent even the last 7 years of our existing investing in, is what does purpose-built models for this entire consumer look like? So across content, across consumption, brands, or even distribution plays, who are building like the infrastructure to even be able to reach these customers. For example, in Middle India, as you call it, your branch-based banking does not work, does not scale, right? Like you're not able to sort of offer these people the kinds of financial products that they want. Neither are these customers easily accessible on the internet, right? You can't just keep throwing money at social media in order to onboard them. That's a very, very poor way to acquire them, and I'm sure Bisu is like the expert on the panel on this. He'll tell you more about it. But really, what do purposefully building to be able to access them? What kinds of products do you design? For instance, in FMCG, the greatest and probably only innovation in the last several decades for rural or middle India has been sachets. I don't know if you know this, that's it. Like price point drop with a package drop, that was as much innovation that went into thinking about this customer base. But now 60% of Nykaa's purchases are outside of tier 1. Like that is reflected, at least 30 to 40% of any e-commerce brand, etc. We're seeing a lot of their sales come from beyond the tier 1 urban elite cities. And those customers have stickier like consumption behavior. They are higher retention, they don't churn off as easily, they're more loyal as customers, and they have increasing AOVs as well with time, as there's a very aspirational class there. So all parts of it, right? So everything that we've now been able to saturate the markets within urban elite India, they will look very, very different as companies when looking at, well, again, I hate that phrase, but middle India and beyond. So yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, I have a lot to add to that. You called it many India.
Yes, exactly. I think that generally what you need to start thinking about is outside of the metros, let's assume that's one persona, how many other personas or buyers exist, right? And that's why we call them many Indias. So example, all of these earlier from Bihar, UP, people used to come here as maids and drivers. Their kids are now going to English medium schools. They're not going to come as maids and drivers. They all want Infosys jobs. That shows up in maid inflation versus IT salary inflation, right? It's very, very different. I think maid inflation is 8% CAGR over the last 20 years. IT salaries is 2%. There's another persona of guys who are, farmers' kids, who now don't want to go and till the soil. That means there is a lot more farm automation. There are YouTube channels where farmers are watching how to do a better job. There's a third persona of kids coming into cities to be Urban Clap, Zomato, Swiggy, etc. And frankly, making that 25,000 that the IT fresher is also making. So the whole point is all of them consume differently. All of them have different needs. But Nruthya pointed to sachets. I think a very large theme we're seeing on digital services there is that there is a sachet concept in digital services called microtransactions that works very well. And again, I'm going to throw that to Bisu to talk about some more, but we've had a lot of sort of success in our portfolio with that. At IQ, we've been very, very large proponents of investing in different Indias. So right from ShareChat, we did Friend, which is dating in tier 2, tier 3 cities. We've done Local, which does regional content. Of course, Bisu was nice enough to add us to his cap table, at Kuku. So I think we've spent a lot of time and have figured out that it is not one middle India. There are different personas, horses for courses. You will need a different type of founder to invest behind, and you will need a different type of lens as you view them. And lastly, you need to think about those TAMs 10 years out. Today, they will all look small.
Both of them already spoke about tailored solutions, but it would be interesting if, Bisu, you could really tell us your experience at Pocket FM, Kuku FM. I'm so sorry. And because we know that you've really gone and created products for the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. You have, what we used to call earlier, a chota recharge kind of, products that you've brought in, but there are these smaller subscriptions that you've brought. If you could, tell the audience about your experience and how did that idea come about?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me here. So we started in 2018, and I think at that time, the best thing happened in India was internet wave, like Jio onboarded everyone in India on internet. And second best thing happened in India is UPI. Now everyone can pay on internet and everyone is comfortable to pay on internet. And when we started in 2018, actually no one believed that India, like Bharat, will pay for content also. We started with Hindi language and also in a new vertical, like no one knows that in non-music audio people will consume and people will pay for that kind of content. But we connected the dots that India is an aspirational country. Everyone wants to grow. So we connected the dots that everyone is already reading. They have a lot of material to consume on a screen like YouTube, social media, games and all these things. But these people are aspirational. They also want to consume content when they are not on a screen, while they are on like commute or doing something repetitive task or doing exercise or anything else. They want to consume the content. So we provided the right value. Now the second challenge was to get payment from these users. That was the most challenging part. I think in the overall India, we were the first one who cracked this model. In 21, we launched our monetization with subscription model. And within 15 months, we crossed 1 million active paid users on platform. Like 10 lakh users paying on Kuku FM. And we were only in Hindi and Tamil language. We don't have English language. And most of the users are from tier 2 and beyond cities. And these users realize the value. These users are comfortable to pay. Now you have to think like the ideas and right value for these users. And like now I can see there are a lot of opportunities. Like now you have like, so everything flow from top down. Like whatever we had in developed countries now, like from last 10, 20 years, these metro cities users were consuming. Now everything will go down also. But there is nuances, there are different DNA in these users. You have to like tweak all the models. Like in our content also, like when you will consume content in Kuku FM, you will realize that this is not Western content. This is very specific to like our culture and for these Bharat audience.
It's very interesting that he spoke about, people who were ready to pay for those small subscriptions and content. And that brings us to the question of, the purchasing power of the hinterland. So Chirag, if you can, tell us, broadly, because these solutions are getting made for the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, do these people have the kind of purchasing power? And, what has your experience been?
No, certainly. If you actually see, most of the large consumer houses, bulk of their revenue or sales are getting generated from tier 2, 3 towns, Bharat, as you may call it. Just to give you some statistics, 48% of Dabur sales comes from this part of the world. About 60% of Misho sales is coming from tier 4 towns. Manyavar, I think, recently opened a 20,000 square foot showroom in Ranchi, Gorakhpur. So I think on the auto side, both Maruti and Tata, they had almost 40% plus growth in 23. Coming from again Bharat basically. So I think the real growth engine for India is Bharat per se. And I think one interesting trend that we are seeing is that the premiumization. I think not only Bharat is linked to a very sort of a mass market model. I think the kind of wealth that you are seeing in this sort of world is we're not even aware of that. It's people living in bigger cities. Because like real estate has gone really well. A lot of these people they hold a lot of land holdings. So a lot of wealth is getting generated, and you're seeing that in 23 or in the last 12 to 18 months. Almost half of the new product innovations from the large consumer houses like in ITC, HUL, Parle, they have been more on the premium side. And of course, there is a market which people are paying for that. So from that perspective, I think this is a very inherent growth factor for the country, and it's going to continue in long term.
Right. It's a very interesting point that Chirag made about premiumization. And, Bisu, I would want you to come in here. A lot of founders say that acquiring new customer is not my success. Retaining customer and trying to see how much more I can squeeze out of that customer. So how are you, seeing, are people ready to re-engage? Are they subscribing to more of your content? What has the experience been?
I think this is something that is like every company have to crack this formula, how to acquire the customers. It is not for Bharat or something else. And what we experience in our early journey, like that these users, Bharat users are consuming a lot of content. And YouTube is the biggest platform in India, even bigger than WhatsApp. And somehow we cracked that DNA that we are giving content in audio, and same content is available in video also. That is on a screen, and we are non-screen product. So people are consuming on screen on YouTube, but they want to consume content while they are commuting and all these things. So we cracked this influencer marketing very well. We started like working with these YouTubers, and we started like mapping our content with these YouTubers. At one point, we were doing around 1,000 campaigns every month, and we were generating around more than 200 million views every month. So you can like get the idea that how big is the scale. So I think everyone have to figure out some growth channels, and that should not be like traditional channel. Like when email started, people exploited email. Now you can't like do growth on emails. Then people started using SMS. Then people started using these Google, Facebook performance campaigns. I think whenever you are creating a product and building something, you have to spend same amount of resources to figure out a growth channel also. And there are unique channels, and you will surprised when you find that channel, and sometimes it is very effective also.
That's interesting. Nruthya, if you can talk about, we've seen in the last 1 decade the kind of businesses that were built. But if we have to crystal ball gaze into, what would another 5 to 10 years look like? What are the ideas that excite you as an investor today?
There's several, and I think no investor worth their salt will tell you that they can look 5 years out. This is a country where consumption patterns, how people, we were talking about this on the way over, but how they consume, where they consume changes like the earth beneath you shifts every 6 months. So you have to keep your ear plugged to the ground as founders, as investors, etc., on how this entire sort of population is coming onto the internet very, very differently from, say, the US's journey or Korea's journey or even China's journey into the internet, right? So, for instance, there's a ton of leapfrogging that we see. So, traditionally, like India itself has been known to leapfrog, like, you know, credit cards straight to like mobile payments, etc. But here we're seeing consumption behavior where even Kuku, take for an example, first transactions on the internet were happening and people were buying audio subscriptions of content. What was the first transaction you made on the internet? It was probably for a physical good, probably was cash on delivery. Then you maybe went and like, you know, bought something and bought like an individual piece of content. When did you start paying for subscriptions online? Our journey in urban India is very dramatically different from what the rest of India is going to move, will continue to move into. So for us, opportunities, like I mentioned, lie everywhere, right? And there are, to the point that Bisu made, new channels and new challenges as well that need to be solved for very, very uniquely. So the first, to say the first wave of innovation in India was, we see models and products around the world, we'll think about what is relevant for India and bring it here. This generation is, we have nowhere to look. The more and more that I see with a lot of our companies today, I am unable to find comparables anywhere else in the world for the kind of growth or the kinds of exit outcomes they will have, like for the companies that are coming out of India and particularly building for this talent base. So really have to think about this grounds up. We see things everywhere. One example would be in wealth, right? This is going to be en masse the first generation that comes into wealth for the first time. Like Indians have not seen wealth. Like, okay, the people in the room here, maybe we're a couple generations in, but you're going to see en masse people thinking about wealth very differently. I don't know if you've looked at Grow's numbers and their breakdown of the number of customers that they have that have never transacted before, have never invested before, but also are from tier 3, tier 4 and beyond. The vast majority of the users on their platforms, whether it's across the mutual fund and other investing products, or even on the F&O front, come from a user base you would never imagine is so large. So there is active market creation happening on the ground. And our job is to keep our ears open and eyes plugged to the ground and really change adapt very quickly to what models will work. So to your point, wealth, right? Like how we approach an entire generation that's coming to wealth for the first time, this is their first, piece of wealth. So very, very high trust. Potentially a little bit more omni-channel approach. So not just digital acquisition. They're not going to part with their money just if you bombard them with ads, like maybe urban India will, right? You need to sort of think about how trust networks even exist, Uttar Pradesh versus a Karnataka versus a Maharashtra, and they're all very different, by the way. How those taste profiles change, like every bit of it. Now you need to start taking India seriously as a series of microcosms that are pulled together and innovate for each of those that uniquely. So broadly across every single sector, we see very deep innovation happening in the futures.
Right. That also, it reminds me that when I talk to a lot of founders, there's this often dilemma about whether to go deeper into Indian market or to expand to homogeneous, markets outside of India. So what works for probably the tier 1 and the metros might not work for tier 2. So Kanika, if you could come here and, as an investor, when you're talking to your portfolio, what is it that you brainstorm on, how do you really decide whether to go deeper into the Indian market or explore overseas?
Yeah, I think they're quite the exception, because generally our belief is, आप इंडिया में रहते हो, आप इंडिया समझते हो, इंडिया में बनाओ. There is, everyone is coming from outside here looking for our Dauma farms, right? We have enough people you can sell to. We have found that they are all willing to pay for a good product. So generally, as far as consumer goes, we're very, very clear that there are nuances that Indians understand about other Indians, and that is what you should be investing behind. I don't think that we have enough unfair advantage to build a consumer product for the US, right? And the same would be true. Some American came here to build Kuku. Where was he going to find the money, right? So that is, of course, one part of it. On the consumer side, when you start thinking about software, we have been very big believers that Indian businesses will also pay for software, but they will not pay $20 a month, which is what US products cost, they will pay $5. We have lots of bets across accounting, payroll, logistics, even construction management on this thesis, and we're actually seeing users pay. None of the software is free. And the sort of double click on that, or phase 2 really is that just like we can't pay $20 a month, most of Global South can't either, right? So can we build software for everything else? You build for Brazil, right? You build for Africa, you build for the rest of Southeast Asia, because they will all pay for software $5 a month. And they will have similar nuances, and of course there will be differences, but the thought process is like an Indian SME, and can you sort of expand in areas, regions where you think that you have an unfair advantage. And of course, we have the talent pool to be doing all of that building. There aren't enough engineers in these other countries to do all of that building for them. So I think it is, again, dependent on what space you look at, whether you should or should not go out. But to us, it's clear you go where you have unfair advantages, and consumer, clearly you have it in India.
Right, so there's enough talent available, Kanika says, the engineers who are ready to build businesses. But Chirag, is there enough capital to back these businesses? So what is your take? Do we have a buoyant, domestic pool of capital to really back these businesses built for Bharat?
No, definitely, because if you see, I think most of the startups which have sort of come in India, I think the genesis is sort of catering to Bharat. What sort of digital penetration has allowed is, access to consumers which was never available earlier. And if you actually see on the e-commerce side, I think the tier 2, tier 3 cities or the rural India contributes more to their sales vis-a-vis sort of, online channels from the metros per se. So I think capital is abundantly available, and I think it's not only the consumer part. I think for me, Middle India is consumer tech is one, fintech, I think is a big theme. Like today morning only, we were speaking with a two-wheeler vehicle finance company, great business model. He is catering to second-hand two-wheelers, so more to the hinterlands, and a very well-run business per se, and I'm sure, if we go to the market with that particular opportunity, it'll solicit good investor interest. Fintech, I mentioned, AgTech. I think that is a new theme coming in, with sort of helping the farmers on the weather forecasting patterns and everything using satellites. Health tech, I think, is a very important one again, where using technology, you are sort of servicing consumers sitting in rural India who don't have access to the best healthcare facilities, which we have over here in metros. So I think from that perspective, capital is abundantly available. I think one thing which has sort of changed in the last 18 to 24 months is investors are sort of, they need visibility on profitability. So as long as it's sustainable growth, is profitable growth, or, path to profitability is established, I think that will sort of attract a lot more capital now vis-a-vis what it used to be earlier. I think one more theme which, I would like to highlight is beyond the digitalization, for Middle India, there's also this big platform play which is emerging. Things like hospitals. You have a lot of these niche hospitals in tier 2, tier 3 towns, and some of these larger investors are using that as a roll-up play, going and acquiring these assets. So standalone, I don't think there'll be any buyer for these hospitals, but once they become part of a platform, or for that matter, as infrastructure on roads, then it becomes a sizable platform, and then you sort of encash it via InvIT or an IPO, or you sell it out as a bigger platform. So I think capital is abundant there. I think in terms of, you just need to be a bit sort of cautious in terms of the profitability part. And second thing, I think, which I think generally is a theme across India when any international investor looks at it, is governance. I think that is a very important part, where what we are seeing in the deal-making side is that more and more time is getting spent on diligence. So while there is a lot of interest in India, there's a lot of activity, but the diligence requirements have just increased, from the respective ICs. So it's just taking longer to sort of culminate deals.
Right. Chirag touched upon a very important point, profitability. And Bisu, I would want you to come in here, because the narrative has clearly shifted from speed to market to stronger unit economics. How difficult it is to really an early stage company towards profitability, keep your focus, razor focus on, profitability and stronger unit?
Sure. I think first I want to add for capital wala part. I think this is the first time in India that we have reverse problem. We have more capital and figuring out a product in Bharat segment, it takes time. Actually, it is not that easy. Like we say that there is a big opportunity, there are 800 million internet users, everyone is using UPI, but it takes time actually. And I know a lot of founders have spent 1 year, 2 years to figure out the product and they failed. So it is not that easy. And I also have connected the dots. Like if you are providing the same product to tier 1 city users, then for example, it takes 10 months to CAC payback, like recover the money of your marketing money to acquire 1 paid users. In tier 2, it will take 12 months. In tier 3, it will take 14 months. In tier 4, it will take 16 months. Like it is literally true for us also. Like we are in Bharat segment, but it is still difficult to acquire it good unit economics users. You can acquire a lot of users if you want to increase the DAO MAU. And we did lot of startups did that mistake actually. They raised a lot of money. They also got lot of users DAO and MAU, but now they are struggling to monetize the users. In last 2 years, we started focusing on monetization, most of the companies. And now we are figuring out that they have paying capacity, but we have to provide the right value. And even after providing the right value, it varies with tiers because these users also take education to spend freely. I will say in tier 2, users are very comfortable spend less than 100 rupees. They will not think twice to spend less than 100 rupees. But when you increase price more than 100 rupees, then you will see that conversion is not working and people are not paying more than 100 rupees. And in tier 3, 4, I will say that price range also drops it 80 and 50 rupees. So it is quite difficult. It is not easy. But now, because the dynamics changed in last 2 years, lot of companies are working on the fundamentals. And now I know a lot of companies are at break even, or some of them are burning very less and growing actually fast. So it is changing now. And people are also now comfortable paying for right product. Like initially they were skeptic that should I pay for this product or not. Then they started getting discounts. Now they are paying full price also. So today even Zomato, Swiggy is also not giving discount. We also not giving discount. But people are started paying because now they realize the value of the product also. It is difficult, but it is possible. And in Bharat side, it takes more time than actually your tier 1 cities.
So I think Mera Bharat badal raha hai.
Yes.
On that note, maybe we have just 5 minutes to entertain some audience questions if you have any. Yeah, Shashin.
Hi. So I'm Mint Money correspondent. My name is Anil. So I have a question to you, Bisu, especially. There are a good number of apps which we Indians are making, which are not just used by us, but also globally. Okay, but there is a sort of a monopoly when it comes to where those apps we install from, like Play Store or App Store. Right? And recently there was an incident where number of apps were taken off all of a sudden. So my question is, how big is this problem? Is it really affecting us, and what are we doing to change this?
काफी interesting topic छेड़ दिया. So in one sentence, I will say it is a very big problem.
So one question to this. Why can't we have our own Play Store?
Come again?
Why can't we have our own Play Store?
Why can't we have another Play Store?
Yeah. Why can't India build their own Play Store?
Yes. So actually, I will say internet का journey last 50 years के अंदर एकदम develop हुआ है, and now everyone started realizing that internet is I will say so much in our day-to-day life that we can't live without internet. But because this journey started from US and now we started using the internet, it is dominated by two players. There are two gatekeepers on internet. One is Google and second is Apple. They are providing good service to like everybody. If you see Google from like user side, it is giving everything free, like search, Gmail, YouTube, everything. And we are so happy. But when you go other side, in business side, when you want to start an internet company, then you realize, okay, they looks very good from consumer side, but they are very evil from business side. And in our journey, in last 6 years, they removed our app 2 times. First, they removed in 2020 for 25 days without giving any pre-notification. Just realized that at that time we were around 20 people team. We used to come every day in office and there was no app and we used to work. And recently they also removed the app. That is also like 5-minute pre-notification. So I think it is a very big problem for India. If we want to develop our own ecosystem, we should own internet in India. And I think India is also realized now. They started fighting that we should own the internet because it is now a set. Like we are like 1.4 billion people. We spend a lot of time on internet. Average 5 hours everyone is spending. They have a lot of data. Now, today actually they control our country. Like you can't even imagine, but they like have so much control on India. They can control us. So I think this is a long fight. But because they are so big, they are dominating internet. For example, Google has Android. They have their own Play Store. Now we are just putting app on Play Store and they are not allowing other Play Store on Android. So you can't like make an app like Play Store and put on Play Store. So they are completely dominating this space. And it is surprising that Google exists just because they fight against Microsoft in 1999 or 2000 because of this Chrome thing. Because the Internet Explorer was same. They were same. They had this Microsoft OS and Internet Explorer was their browser. They were not allowing any other browser. Now the same thing they are doing for Internet in India for Play Store. So it is a I think very serious issue, but I think India has already realized that we have to own this internet and it will take time. I think we all the startup companies are fighting this issue now.
Thank you. Great. I think the session was very self-explanatory and thank you so much